All right. Okay. So what I want to do here in this video is talk a little bit about short run and long run shocks. And I get it, they can be a little much, especially when you're going through the quiz and you see that feedback and there's about a bajillion graphs and lines and everything. So I want to walk through a little bit how to approach it. We're going to do 3 different kinds of problems. The first one we're going to do is just a typical demand shock, which also it's the same. You can do the same thing for a supply shock. They're basically approach the same ones, just moving the demand curve. The other one's moving the supply curve. We're going to do a demand shock first. We're not going to do supply shock because it's pretty intuitive. It's basically the same approach. Then the second graph we're going to do is we're going to do a increased in fixed cost, or like a fixed input increase. And the second one we're going to do is a increase or decrease in marginal cost. Now, if you want to see specifically like variable inputs or variable cost increase or decrease, that's going to be a separate video because that problem I feel like is a little bit trickier and just harder to explain. And I want to make sure you guys understand it. So, yeah, so we're just going to jump in. Okay, so let's say you identified that there's some market, there's some problem, and it's an increase in demand. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do blue. Let's make this. What colors do you guys want? You can't really talk to me, so I don't actually care that much. But we're gonna do blue is short run, and then red is gonna be long run. Okay, so we're gonna do blue, short run, and then red is equal to long run. Okay, so in the short run, let's say the demand increases in a market. People discover that a new good is trending or something, and so demand increases. So we have our new demand curve, which is right there. So then what do? Well, we see where the new equilibrium is. Okay, this is the new equilibrium, which is right here. And because of that new equilibrium, we have a new price. So we want to draw that new price line. So this is our new price line. And if you remember, in perfect competition, only in perfect competition, your price is equal to your marginal revenue. Okay, so how do we determine on the firm side where we want to produce? Well, firms are what we call profit maximizing. And if you remember what profit maximizing is, if you don't know what profit maximizing is, definitely learn it. What that means, just ingrain this in your mind. It means that your marginal revenue is equal to your marginal cost. It means you're producing the exact amount to make the most profit as you possibly can. Okay? So, in that case, we want to see in the short run, where is our marginal revenue, our new marginal revenue curve intersect with the marginal cost curve, because that's going to tell us the quantity or the output, how much we need to produce to make the most profit possible, to maximize profit. So we see that the marginal revenue and marginal cost intersect there. So we draw a dotted line going up and down that curve. And this is our new quantity. You can see this was our previous one. This is our old quantity. And this is our new quantity. And then from there, we can identify if it's a profit or loss. Okay, and how do we do that? Well, we need to see where this quantity line that we drew, so this quantity line going vertical, intersects with the average total cost curve. So it intersects with the average total cost curve right here. Okay, that's where it intersects with the average total cost curve, which is kind of actually like the same spot. It's usually not there, but we'll just leave it the way it is. And we draw it across. So we see here, so that the price, which is right here, up top, that dot higher up, is greater than the average total cost at that quantity. So is this going to be a profit or a loss? Well, if the price is greater than the average total cost, this is going to be a profit. So this whole area is a profit. Okay? So that's our profit. And that should conclude everything in the short run. Okay, so you can ask a question and you can ask, okay, what happens to the price, the quantity, and the price? Well, the quantity and price increases in the market. in the short run, because we see that the new equilibrium is greater price and greater quantity than the previous. Then what about on the firm side? Well, it could ask what happened to the profit, what happened to the quantity? Well, we can see that the quantity clearly increased, and the profit also increased, given by there was zero profit. That's how we know we're in the long run. There's zero profit, and that's what it was at the black dot. And now at the blue dot, it has positive profit, so the profit increased. Okay, now let's do a long run. Continue. So after you have identified if it's profit or loss, that concludes everything in the short run. So we're going to transition to the long run. So in the long run, if every single firm is making $1 billion in profit, let's say, what's going to happen to that market? Let's say it's the market for pizzas, and every pizza store you see is making $1 billion. What are you going to do? Well, you're probably going to open a pizza store. So as such, everyone starts opening pizza stores, and so the supply of pizza stores will increase. So the supply increases. So where do we see the new equilibrium is? Where the red line hits the blue line, it's roughly right here. And we see that this red line is, or it's supposed to be, at the same spot that the black line was. So we have our new marginal revenue price, which happens to be at the same price location. Okay, and then we do the same thing. Where does marginal revenue intersect with marginal cost, the profit maximizing point? Well, it's right there again. So our quantity is back to where it was. So then we could get asked in the long run, what happens in the market? Well, the price stays the same because we're comparing it to the black dot, not to the blue dot. Always compare it to the original black point. Well, the price stays the same, but the quantity increases in the long run. And then what about in red? For the firm side? Well, the quantity stays the same and the profit stays the same, because we're back to the original point and they're back to zero profit. That's how we know in the long run. If it's a long run firm question, your profit will always be the same if it's a long run in the firm. And usually, almost always, the quantity will stay the same, except for one case. And we're going to go over that problem right now. And that's when there's a fixed input or a fixed cost. Okay, so let's say that there's an increase in your fixed inputs or increase in fixed costs. So what does that do? Well, what that will do is it will increase, it will increase your average total cost. Okay, so your average total cost increases. So as we see, this is where we are currently operating. That's where the marginal cost and the marginal revenue intersect. We draw our Q going up and down. But now we see that this quantity no longer intersects with average total cost at the price and the average total costs are no longer equal to each other because the average total cost has gone up because your fixed costs have gone up. Okay, so we see that it actually now intersects right here. The price is still the same, but the average total cost has gone up. So now we can identify, is this a profit or a loss? The average total cost is greater than the price at that quantity. This is a loss. So this area is a loss. Okay, and like we talked about, once you've identified if it's a profit or a loss, that concludes everything in the short run. So what happened to the market in the short run? Nothing. The price and quantity stayed the same. But what happened to the firm's price or profit and quantity in the short run? Well, the quantity stayed the same, but the profit decreased because now we're operating at a loss. So then we transition to a long run. So same thing, if every firm is losing money in the long run, a lot of firms are going to exit that market. So the supply decreases. So we have a new equilibrium, which is roughly right there. Then we draw our new price. Yeah. So I know it's hard to see because I didn't draw these graphs very well, which was marginal. Whoops. This is supposed to be. So we draw our new price line. Marginal revenue is equal to price. It intersects roughly right here. The whole point of this is that it's supposed to intersect at a different quantity. Okay, so our new quantity is right here. Okay, so there's a new quantity. I know it looks similar, but So we have our new quantity because we look where marginal revenue and marginal cost intersect. But now we can see that this price line, intersects with the average total cost. So they're equal to each other, so we're back to zero profit. So that's how we know we're in the long run, is we're at zero profit. Okay, so that should answer our question. That should be all the shocks, and we can answer the question. So what happens to the market in the long run? Well, the quantity decreases, but the price increases in the long run because of the new equilibrium, the red dot compared to the black one, and then comparatively what happens to the firm's quantity and profits in the long run. Well, the quantity increases, but the profit stays the same. So that's the only case when there's a fixed input or fixed cost. That's the only case when the quantity will increase in the long run for the firm. And the profits should always stay the same in the long run. Okay, last question. This video is going to be long, but that's okay. So let's say that there's an increase in marginal cost. So an increase in marginal cost. What does that look like? So this is going to be a little bit weird because it's not what you would typically, because I know how supply shifts are usually a right shift of an increase in supply. It usually goes like that. This is not the case. A marginal cost, an increase in marginal cost, is actually a left shift. Okay. Whoa, why am I drawing this red? Sorry. This is supposed to be blue. Let me erase this arrow because it's kind of getting in the way. So there's our marginal cost increase. Okay. And the way you can always know is look at this as a price, the price axis, this axis right here. So an increase in marginal cost means an increase in cost. It means your costs are going to be more expensive. So naturally, your price is going to go up, which is why it's a left shift. So that's how I remember it. Because your price is increasing. If it was a right shift, your price would be decreasing, and that's not an increase in cost. So it's a left shift in marginal cost. Okay, so now this should be our shock for the short run. And we can see that we look where marginal cost and marginal revenue intersect. Always. So marginal revenue intersects with the marginal cost right here. So this is the new quantity, and this was the old one. And we can see at that quantity, it intersects with the average total cost curve. Oh, sorry. Let's back up. I forgot something very important. So that's your all over the place. Okay. No, I don't like that. So if the marginal cost increases, we'll still draw the marginal cost right here. The average total cost is also going to increase. This is only true for marginal cost and for variable costs, which we'll see later. But your average total cost increases as well. This is very important. Okay, that should be everything. So like same thing we did. So your average total cost, we look where the marginal cost intersects with marginal revenue, which is right here. You draw the dotted line going up and down. We see that intersects with average total cost right here. We draw the line across. So is this a profit or a loss? Well, the average total cost right here is greater than the price point. So this area is a loss. Okay. So that should answer everything we need. We should have everything we need to answer the question for what happens in the market and the firm in the short run in the short run. Now let's do long run. Well, if every firm is losing money, then the supply will decrease. So we draw a red dot, draw a line going across. And I knew I drew this bad. Holy cow. My graph's all over the place. But this is where the new marginal cost intersects with the new marginal revenue. And I know I didn't draw it correctly, but the quantities are supposed to line up. I just didn't draw the graph right. So the quantities are supposed to roughly be the same as the original black point. and we're back to zero profit in the long run because the price intersects with the average total cost curve, and it's back to zero. Okay, so then you can say, okay, in the firm in the long run, profit and quantity stays the same, and then in the market, the price increases but the quantity decreases. Okay, hopefully this makes some sense. Let me know if you have any questions. In the next video, I'm going to go over specifically the shock towards what happens to increase or decrease in variable costs or variable inputs. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Adam out.